Okay, if you could please state your name for the record.
Gina Panzica.
Okay, and what is your position here?
I am a family and consumer science teacher, so I teach child development, personal finance, and health class.
Very cool. Okay, and what made you want to go into that field?
Well, for a lot of reasons. I've got two main passions. My first one is nutrition, and then my second one is child development. So it's really cool that I have a position where I get to teach all of these things.
Yeah, that is very cool. And do you find children's books coming up a lot in your childhood development classes?
Oh, absolutely. We talk about these. I actually have the students, read stories as if they were to elementary school students, and they'll actually go into the elementary school and read a book to their students.
Oh, very cool. For what class is that?
That's for my child development course.
Okay.
Yes.
Very nice.
And they will actually also make their own children's book as well.
Okay. Very cool. And when they make those children's book, is there anything specific that you look for within them, like any criteria?
Yeah, so first I look at creativity, obviously, because I think that's what draws in students. So lots of color, lots of kid-friendly pictures. We also really talk about that there should not be a lot of text on each page. So they're very tempted to put like these big paragraphs on each page, but I just mentioned to them that, you know, we have to keep the kids' attention. Also, it's not necessarily required, but I do like there to be a good moral to the story. So I like them to tie it in and actually teach the children something, because that's kind of the main point of doing this. Yes.
Like life lessons, you would say? Or?
Yeah, a life lesson, something to tie it in, something relatable, and then also keeping vocabulary down as well.
Right.
So reminding them that, you know, maybe a first grader or second grader is reading this, they're not going to have as big as a vocab as a high school student.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's very cool that you give them the opportunity to make these books.
Yes, and they really get into it. They truly do.
That's very cool. I'm sure you do as well, since...
Yeah, it's really fun to see what they come up with. Yeah.
Right. Very nice. And what is your favorite children's book?
My favorite one is actually this one right here.
Okay.
It's called Sneetches by Dr. Seuss.
Okay.
And the main reason I like this is it talks to children about self-esteem, but it does it in a way where it doesn't really tie it all in until the very end. So the kids are very focused, and then at the end it kind of shows that we need to appreciate others' differences, and that if everybody was the same, it would make the world a very boring place.
Right.
So I think it has a really great message.
That is very cool. That's important.
Yes, and if we can expose kids to something like this very early on, I think it's a great foundation for them.
Okay, and so off of that, do you think that children should be exposed to heavy topics through children's literature?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the best ways to expose them.
Okay, very cool. And when you begin reading children's literature, what is one of the more important things to you? I know you had kind of talked about just having a good message through it. Is there anything else you want to touch on?
That's the main part as well, but also a little humor. I like a little humor in children's books just to keep my attention span.
Right, exactly. And when you read children's literature, do you think about like the characters or the plot or the setting throughout it, like where it's taking place, who the characters are?
Yeah, and especially what I like to do, especially when we're reading to the elementary school students, I like to make sure that there's diversity within the book, so that there's different characters and they're in a different setting, so that it appeals to all students and we're not just automatically shutting down a student.
Right, perfect. I think that is very important, because sometimes with children's literature you do see exclusiveness, and so...
Yeah, we want to keep it inclusive.
Right,
Absolutely.
exactly. Perfect. And what are one of the reasons that you enjoy reading children's literature?
Children's literature? Well, it brings me back a lot. It's very nostalgic. Dr. Seuss, I grew up on Dr. Seuss, so I like to read those books, or Strega Nolna. I was exposed to that quite a bit, and it was really nice being a young child and having a children's book that related directly to my own culture. So that made it more normalized, made me feel like I could fit in. And I just really like reading children's books because, first of all, for children, it's great for them to read every single day.
Right.
And also, if they can create or capture these good messages along the way, then that's phenomenal.
Perfect. Okay.
Yes.
And I'm just gonna wait a second.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. And let me see. Is there a specific type of children's literature that you don't like necessarily?
One that I don't like.
It's okay if not.
I have not come across a children's book that I don't like.
Okay.
Not yet. I'll keep you posted.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I know we had watched a TED Talk in class, and there was just a few that they had brought up, but I feel like that's more specific to each person, if you don't like it or not.
Yeah, and what was the TED Talk about? Like, which ones did they not like?
It was just different ones about race and how they show that some student, like, some of the black kids or African American kids are just portrayed in like a slave type of persona or kind of like
negative.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I know now they're trying to make more children's books that show how like all races are all equal and the same.
Yeah, so it's hard to pinpoint one specific book, but yeah, I would agree to that.
Right, exactly. I know, I like here how you have a different array of animals and different things going on in your books. Yes. And do you think children's literature is essential to children's growth and development?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, starting that out right away and reading as they go through.
And is that
build vocabulary?
Is that something that you do show in your children's development class?
Yeah, that's what we start out with before we actually dive into the book, so that they understand the why of why we're doing this.
Okay, very cool. And which book genres do you think children are most resistant to reading?
Resistant to reading, ones that they don't like?
Yeah.
Are you talking about like content or level or
Maybe content. It's okay if you don't have an answer to that.
Yeah,
question.
we can come back to that one.
Okay,
Let me
yeah,
think
of
about
course.
that one.
And I know you had said that you do cadet teaching as well.
Yes.
So what exactly is that?
So basically what that is, child development is the prereq for that course. So they have to take that so that they understand, you know, all of that good stuff.
Right.
And then they can take a course where they actually go to an elementary school 4 days a week.
Okay.
So they're actually working one-on-one with either a particular student or an entire class, depending on what that elementary school teacher wants. So they get to kind of help out in the community. And there are times where they are reading with the students. So it's really great that they understand the importance of children's books, so that when they're reading with students, they kind of, you know, have enthusiasm.
Yeah, exactly. That's really cool that you offer that course here.
Yeah.
Yes. And is that the class that they make the children's books, or is that for the children development?
That's the child development.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are two different
Okay.
courses. Yeah.
Very cool. And is there what other courses do you teach? Anything relating to children?
That's the only one that really focuses on children and child development. Yeah.
Okay.
Those two. Yeah.
Very nice. And did you ever want to be an elementary school teacher, or just primarily high school with what you're doing now?
I have thought about being an elementary school teacher. So originally, I wanted to teach like 1st through 4th grade, somewhere in there. But the field is oversaturated by 200%, so I decided to actually be a secondary teacher. Okay. And kind of the loophole I found with that is I can still integrate child development in my classes. So I found it kind of like being the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that is great that you have the opportunity to do both.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there anything else that you want to add about children's literature or anything specific?
No, nothing to really add. Do you have any other questions for me?
No, I think I got them all. You did great.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.